And the runner's on the line. Gun is up with the starter. And they are off here. 2016 Men's National Championship, Division I. 10,000 meters. We'll know in about 30 minutes what's going to happen.
And that wind is brutal.
Edward Cheserek, your favorite coming in, trying to win his 4th NCAA individual title, be the first man in history to do so, and he will be by the likes of Justin Knight, Patrick Tiernan, Futsum Zena Selassie out there. Morgan McDonald's been running great for Wisconsin. And then don't sleep on the boys from Stanford with Grant Fisher.
It's going to be interesting to see how this race plays out early on. As we know, Cheserek does not like to lead. He likes to sit. And because everyone knows he is the king to be beat, do they want to take it out hard in this win? Do they want to try to shorten the race, turn this into a 2K race? We'll see what happens as they kind of, looks like UTEP right to the front, right there in the middle of your screen.
Yep, UTEP with those bright headband hats, orange jerseys. Cheserek on the right of your screen there in the bright yellow Oregon jersey. I think we had a post out there that said for Cheserek it's all about the yellow uniform. He's won 3 titles all in that yellow jersey, so he's trying to make it a 4th here. And he said yesterday, you know, we talked to him at the press conference, and we talked to the coaches at the press conference. Asked Andy Powell and Edward what their game plan was for Cheserek today. Andy didn't want to say too much, and Cheserek simply said, you know, I'm going to run with my team as long as I can, and then see who makes the moves. So he's trying to get the Oregon men up there as far as he can before trying to take off from this field.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't think we ever like to talk about our game plans before the race.
And I saw on that screen, running right next to Edward Cheserek is a person that we really haven't yet to talk about this year. It's Jacob Chogi, the Middle Tennessee State kid, freshman, has an older brother. You might have heard of him, Augustine Chogi, pretty good in his time. But Jacob Chogi, he could be, you know, the guy. He's a freshman.
Well, you mentioned, I mean, Gordon, you made a great analysis earlier today when we spoke about this. Chogi's having a similar year to what Cheserek did as a freshman.
Correct.
And how has he gone through this year so far?
Yeah, Cheserek, as you know, he was not always the greatest of all time, that some may say. As a freshman, he was not the favorite. His goals would be top 10. He didn't win Wisconsin. He was a 5th or so.
Kennedy Kathuka was the defending champ that year.
Everyone said Kathuka was unbeatable. Kathuka could not lose. And Cheserek was just searching for a top 10 finish. And Cheserek won Pac-12s, went on to win the regionals, and then went on to win nationals. And Chogi kind of had a slow regular season, goes on to win Conference USA over Jonah Koek, who's a top 10 guy, wins the South region, and now see if he can challenge who we think is unbeatable.
And Bob, you said earlier, I like this. You said as a favorite, you have to be unpredictable out there. You say we don't like to share our race plans. We have to be unpredictable. Why is that? What's the mindset?
Because I think when you're running in a field where there are competitors that are super talented, that there's multiple people who could win a race, you want to try to catch people off guard. And we always talked about, Coach Bell and I always talked about making people do things that they don't want to do when they don't want to do them. And so being unpredictable is running, you know, waiting in the pack and waiting to the end, or making a move in the middle, or changing tempo up and down in the middle. All those things, don't do the same thing every time, so that your competitors can gear off of that.
And I noticed that it is a lot of guys up front. No one wants to take it right now.
This looks very slow right now. I mean, they are so wide and so deep so early here in this race, which usually indicative of a slow pace. The women's race much more strung out into the first 4 minutes. So, you know, Big 12 championships we saw a few weeks ago. The men's race went out slower than the women's race through 2K. It was a jog fest, a sit and kick, and that could really change the dynamic of this team race, and put some teams in there that maybe we hadn't talked about as much. So we'll see where the splits here today. On the men's side, we will get 3K, 5K, and 8K splits with individual splits and updated team scores. Tiernan right there, Pat Tiernan, second line, a favorite. You see him sitting there in third behind Kentucky, and it looks like NAU.
They went 450 there through the mile. A lot slower than the first mile in Louisville.
He said yesterday when we spoke to him, you know, I learned last year going out that hard, you're going to feel like crap at 8K. So it sounded like he was making some adjustments.
That's Jacob Thompson of Kentucky up front right now. And I think Kieran Clements of Iona, a team that we haven't talked about much. They're a perennial top 10 program. Never really podium much, but they are always in the top 10. So you can never count out Iona. So Kieran Clements there right behind Jacob Thompson of Kentucky. You see Tiernan there on the outside as well. But really, it's a giant pack of 50-plus athletes there in the front of this.
Sheila, I remember you were part of a race that was very, very slow through the late stages. I think I remember coming into the final 500 meters, there was about 15 to 20 women still together, and I'm trying to remember if that was 10 or 11. But when the pace is this slow and you're trying to win up front, what do you recall about that race and going through your mind there?
There was actually an athlete who went out ahead of the pack, and we had to track her down. But there was a chase pack of about, like you said, 12 or 15 of us. And I remember coming through the start, or coming back around the start line through to the finish, and I saw Marcus O'Sullivan, the men's coach there, and he told me there's about 10 or 12 with you still. And that's not the kind of thing you want to hear with 500 to go in a cross-country race. So I would think that the men's race will get a little more strung out as we go. There's obviously a lot more running to be done. And I have a feeling that one of these men is going to get impatient.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. That's not Kieran. That is Matthew Baxter of Northern Arizona, the New Zealander who's looking to be finished right behind Footsum, which you also see in your screen there on the left side of your screen.
So NAU 2 up front there. Tiernan running as an individual, not something you see often with Villanova. Definitely a squad that's been here many, many times. But NAU, yeah, 2 up front, looking pretty strong right now. And talking about a slow pace, you know, Edward Cheserek, if this is a slow pace and stays slow, there's no way he's going to keep it that way. He won't. I don't see him allowing 10 to 20 people with him with 400 to go.
And there are a couple dangers that I think about when I see slow paces like this. One is if you are a favorite, if you're thinking about winning the race, you have to make sure that you have the top contenders in your sights and you have running room to react if they make a move. You don't want to get stuck in the pack when the race really happens. The other thing that I see happen quite often when I watch races, and it goes out slow, is that sometimes the second, third runner on a team, someone who's maybe not fighting for the individual championship, they kind of overrun because they get excited. They're up towards the front, like, oh, I feel good today, everything's great, and they get sucked in maybe beyond where they need to be at this point in the race, and so those two things you got to watch out for. It can have an impact on the final results.
Yep, yeah, and if you're keying off of, hey, I want to be in the top 50, top 60 early on, and there's a huge pack of top 100, like you said, it's really easy to misjudge where you're at, and especially as things start breaking up. You see up there, we saw him here also at the pre-national meet, the 2 runners from Campbell there on the right side wearing the black jerseys today. Tulane's got one up in the mix. Louisville is in there, and Middle Tennessee State, Chogi left there just off the shoulder of Tiernan, and they were asked yesterday, hey, how do you account for the wind? And I think it might have been Sean McGorty that said, well, you know, Tiernan's a big guy. You just got to tuck in behind him and let him take the win for you. Everyone was very calm at that press conference yesterday. You know, Footsum Selassie, again, third here 2 years ago, wants to challenge for that not only team title but individual title. He had the great opening remarks, just casually welcoming the media, and everyone had a good laugh, but very calm and relaxed coming into this. And you know, for you guys, I don't even know if you remember, as we get here, some splits at 3K. It's Baxter up front leading at 9:06, and really everyone right there, only a second separating, or half second separating the top 10. But you know, Sheila, you were, and Bob, you know, do you remember coming into your 4 years? Were you always calm? Were there years that you felt very nervous and a little frightened out there? How was it for you guys going through your 4 years? Team scores unofficial there. You saw UTEP leading 113 points.
Wow. Well, I'm so old, we didn't have press conferences before the race, so, I didn't have to show my nerves. I think there's a mix. I think, your first year, your freshman year, there are nerves because it's an unknown. There's a lot of things you've never experienced before. And then as the years go by, there are different reasons you're nervous. For me, they had to do with expectations.
And UTEP, just a check in on the team scores, 135 leads by 1 point over Northern Arizona at 3K at 136, Stanford at 169, Syracuse in 4th at 213, Iona in 5th at 219. And Sheila, for you, how'd you handle the nerves out here?
I was lucky. I always had my teammates with me, and that kind of always calmed me. And I was lucky enough to have teammates who were competitive, in the top 10 or so. So I was always with my team.
It looks like Tiernan making a surge here. You saw Chesarek starting to look around, trying to check where his teammates were. And as that happened, Tiernan started to move up from about 5th into 2nd, with Baxter still leading. And Baxter a step on the field. I'm surprised to see, from one of not NAU's number 1, leading with a couple steps here. Michigan State there in 2nd. But NAU right now sitting in great position there up top there with UTEP, only 1 point separating those two. NAU trying to win their school's first ever national title, and this would be the first time, if NAU was to win, this would be the first time in 35 years that a school in what we now call the Power 5 conferences, the first time a school outside of those Power 5 conferences will have won. The last time was UTEP back in 1981. So, and as we mentioned, UTEP leading here early on. So, that was, I think those UTEP teams were about 7 or 8 years before your time.
That's
Bob,
right.
When they were dominating the NCAA for about 5 years.
That's right. They were running against from IU, Jim Spivey. He had to deal with the UTEP guys.
Not an easy task. They had some very dominating teams as we round this curve here. 12 minutes through this race.
About a little over 12 minutes through 4K.
NAU, I see a lot of yellow up there. I see four guys or so in the top 25.
Don't get confused though with also Iona is rocking some yellow as well. Notice Gilbert Karui of Iona up in the mix, and some San Francisco. So jersey colors can be a little confusing here.
You see off to the left there, it's Grant Fisher is back behind Chogi, looking pretty comfortable. McGordy is also up there with him. So I see two of them up front. I see 2 more of their guys sitting around the top 40. We talked to Coach Chris Miltenberg yesterday, and when he was asked what the key was for them, he said, our number 5, Garrett Sweat, is the guy that really has to come through for us today.
Yeah, he's a 5th-year senior. He's part of that crew of the guys behind their top 3 who need to have 2 of the 4 show up in order for them to have a chance to put together a low team score. But right now it's very wide open. I mean, over 70 people in that front pack still waiting to see us. You see Syracuse fans out here cheering on their team, trying to defend that title. Justin Knight, we haven't spoken about him much. He's up in that mix. And if he's in it with 500 to go, you can't count out Knight. He has the wheels. We see him. This season he hasn't blown people away. He waits and then he blows them away in that last 400 meters. So if the race plays into his favor, you got to keep an eye on Justin Knight, who's in that top 10 right now.
And if you don't know about Justin Knight, he's relatively new to running still at this level. He's a junior at Syracuse. He started running seriously as a junior in high school. So this, I guess, is getting into about his 5th year of running. After about a year and a half of running, he was top 10 in the world at World Juniors in the 5,000 meters. And the story behind him, as we pass that start line again, and our next split will be 5K. We're about a quarter mile from that 5K split. But Knight had to ask how he could improve his grade in what was a gym class, and they said, hey, listen, you got to do well in this 5K run. He ran somewhere in the 15:20s, breaks the school record, and those basketball shoes he had, those got hung up, I think, pretty quick after that, and now one of the best in the nation. Beat Galen Rupp in the 5K last year, the silver medalist from 2012 and bronze medalist from 2016. So he's a guy that every time he steps out there, he kind of learns where a new really a new territory of where he's at.
And that's critical. I mean, there is, you know, the physical side of distance running is obvious, but learning how to race over different situations is imperative too at the highest levels, and that just takes racing.
Yeah.
Coming up on that 5K split here.
Look at this, Cheserek smiling. Looked over at Tiernan, gave a big smile there. So this pace, not very hard for him right now. He just gave a head nod to another runner out there. It's still about 50 people in that pack as they cross through in about 15, 16 for the 5K. So we'll have splits here in a second.
And if you look at this pack, I'm taking an overhead look. Colorado's top 4 are just sitting right behind that front pack.
So Colorado with a great group. Matthew Maton, one of Oregon's top runners, is off of that main pack, kind of in between, trying to bridge the gap. And you saw 15-17 for Kipkoech, Campbell, Tiernan, Cheserek, Zenesalasi, Rotich, Hart of Michigan State, Koski of Alabama, Chogi was there, and Knight. Those are your top 9, but all within 0.2 of a second of each other. So really, this pack all together. We saw at this point a month ago Cheserek take off at 5K when he ran here at Pre-Nats and dominated the field, which contains a lot of the guys who we see up there right now. So it's getting to that point in the race where they're just over halfway, and
we got some
gotta
team scores coming up through 5K. Stanford 117, NAU 125, Syracuse 150, and Tulsa 219.
Tulsa, so the top 3 teams, Stanford, Northern Arizona, and Syracuse, they were in the top 5, the top 4 when we said the scores last time, so they've stayed there and are starting to separate. Arkansas is in 5th at 237, Iona 259, and then Colorado at 280, but a deceiving 280, as you said, Gordon. They're all sitting there together calmly behind that pack.
That's classic Colorado's way of running as well.
Yes, Wetmore just trains those guys to be so calm and move up through in those later stages. And all the coaches and a lot of the athletes said yesterday, and we mentioned in the women's race, and probably even more for this one over 10K, that last 2K is so crucial to have something in the tank to move through that pack as you're trying to win that team title.
Tulsa looking good though in 4th, a surprise 4th there through 5K. They're led by Luke Schrainer, a top 25 caliber guy. Tulsa, they did well in the Midwest. They challenged Oklahoma State there in that Midwest region. Looking good here early on in the first 5K.
Mississippi in that top 8. Portland was 9th.
Starting to see some other faces, familiar faces. You see Morgan McDonald there right next to Tiernan. He's a 1330 guy, also an Australian, so 2 Aussies there racing right next to each other. Wisconsin did not make the meet last year, made it this year. Have 2 good low sticks, and McDonald and Schroevligen. We'll see how they're able to do. But look at that pack. It is a giant pack of 50 athletes, maybe 30 to 40 athletes. Really, they're all within 2 seconds of each other.
And with Cheserek trying to make history today, it's going to be a challenge for all these guys out here. They're saying he's in the best shape of his life, and we saw him. We mentioned the Pre-Nats race he ran here. He said his hardest effort so far this season has been Pac-12s, where it was in the 90s. Ran really hard and said, I wanted to run hard so I could just get out of the heat, get done with it. So, but we saw him separate from everybody at the region, and here it's really, when will he make his move? Will he be the one to make the move?
And Tiernan,
as we say that, Tiernan surges to the lead, and watch, this is when things will start separating. Tiernan looking very, very calm. Not taking it as early as he did last year, but he said also yesterday he's in the best shape of his life, and he's coming off of a year where we were in 13:20 in the 5K. Ran 13:28, didn't make it out of the rounds of the 5K at the Olympics, but said he got great experience there and has a lot of confidence coming into this meet. And not having a team, this is his last collegiate race also, we should mention. So all he's got out here is trying to beat Edward and win his first title.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he wants to lead the pack for the rest of the race here. So I like what he's doing. I think you break it up a little bit, play with the speed, play with the tempo up and down a little bit, see what happens, see if you can shake people loose, but don't stay out in front the whole way at this point.
You gotta be impressed here. Syracuse, Colin Benny, who did not speak of him Struggling a little bit throughout the season, not his usual top 10 quality self, but right now running there with Justin Knight and Syracuse. Having Colin Benny be in that top group is crucial for them to be in the running for the team title.
One of the two Campbell athletes up there in the mix, Justin Knight, he said, when asked how did he beat Cheserek, he said, well, Cheserek can win in so many different ways. I just have to be ready to run my best race and respond to things and adjust as it happens. So you see him doing that just now. Futsum Selassie also doing the same. And Sheila, I don't know if we have any insider information from the Villanova camp, but any words on how people are saying Tiernan was coming into this weekend?
Best shape of his life. A+ shape, B+ beard is pretty much the talk in the Villanova camp.
That's harsh.
Yeah. Something to improve upon, but I've been, I'm familiar with Justin Knight's career for sure. I feel like the Canadians all kind of follow each other in the NCAA, and I was just at the St. Michael's track, which is his old high school up in Toronto, and everybody's rooting for him up in Canada.
So you see that Campbell outfit. We also talk about Edwin Kabici of Louisville in the white kit with the red hat, kind of staying up top, and also Ole Miss athlete looking pretty good there up front as well.
Futsum's right behind Justin, I believe, Knight.
Yep, Futsum there behind Knight. And really that move by Tiernan opened things up. You see Morgan McDonald, top 10 ranked coming into this, is now leading that chase group as Cheserek hat is off, and he's got a slight lead with Tiernan, and they are very familiar to this from 2015 in Louisville, and Knight sitting right there on him. These are the three guys that we really focus in on coming into this weekend. Cheserek obviously the favorite, and Tiernan, Knight, the two of the guys that have the best shot to beat him. And when you look over the last, jumping ahead to the last stage of the race, Knight might be one of the only guys out there that has the speed to match Cheserek over the last 400 meters. They both run 3:56 in the mile. Both have run under 3:40 in the 1500. So when you're talking about speed over those final 400 meters, that long straightaway, Knight has the ability to be there and be there when it counts. So.
Absolutely, but your speed is only as good as your strength and your ability to endure the entire race and get there and able to use your legs and your kick. So, 10K is definitely different than 8K, and it's definitely different than a mile. So,
you gotta like Justin's position though, letting Tiernan and Ches do all the work, chilling in third. I mean, Schweitzer, she was doing the same thing in that women's race. Erin Finn and Anna Rohr duking it out, and she was just sitting in third that entire race and made her move near the end of that last 300 meters.
This really tells you how strong this move has been over the last probably 400 to 600 meters. These guys have left some of the best in the nation. Futsum Selassie, as we mentioned, third at this race 2 years ago on this course, and is having trouble trying to keep up with these guys. And these three up front look pretty effortless right now, very smooth. Cheserek's fixing his jersey right now.
He's always fixing his jersey.
And I think Tiernan is I think it looks like, from what I can tell from here, that he is subtly moving the tempo up and down. And what he's trying to do, unless he just really makes a break for it here, is he knows that in the final straightaway, flat out leg speed, he might be at a disadvantage. He's trying to run that out of him a little bit, so that his strength, as Sheila mentioned, his strength comes into play when they are in the final straightaway. If he can stay there and be in the final straightaway, that he's run some of that speed out of their legs, and he can do that by moving the tempo up and down throughout the race.
So we're coming up on 8K. We're gonna get our final splits here. They're about 23:55 through 8K. Our top three, and then we'll get team scores in a few minutes after a majority of that pack comes through behind them.
So Tierney said at 8K last year he felt like crap, but right now he looks very good and very smooth. Cheserek, you can tell he's definitely had to increase the pace. Justin Knight looking very calm, sitting right there. Cheserek's trying to get on the inside there. Knight had to let him in as they're just over 24:30, and it's 23:53 was the split at 8K for Cheserek, Tiernan, and Knight. 5 seconds behind them was Futsum Selassie, Colin Benny, 24:02. It was MJ Erb from Mississippi who we saw out there in 6, Kabici of Louisville, Kip Koech of Campbell, And right now, we're getting team scores on the board. We'll have them up in a minute. You see unofficial marks right now, 110 for Northern Arizona and 123 for Syracuse. Stanford at 150. And
those will update when they add more athletes to the count.
Yep, those scores are waiting. Here you go. There's more coming in. So NAU has been up near the front with Syracuse this whole time, and Tiernan up front now. Cheserek in third. I don't know if we've ever seen him in third this late into an NCAA Cross Country Championship, but Patrick Tiernan second here a year ago. Justin Knight fourth at this race. These two are trying to take down the king and keep him from being the first NCAA athlete to win 4 cross-country titles. Cheserek is not responding right now to this move, and he's not even staying with Justin Knight.
Yeah, he's not closing this gap. This is unexpected right here. This late in the race, Tiernan and Knight making a push on Cheserek, and Cheserek is not even in your picture right now. This is going to be a battle between Tiernan and Justin Knight. As you see,
look at this.
Cheserek has just let them go.
But was this a mental lapse? Did they crush him here? What's going on?
Well,
what do you see?
With that kind of gap, I don't think it's a mental lapse. It's physical, and you know, we don't know the nuances of Cheserek's training over the last week. He's seemed unbeatable all year, but this is just not physically being able to stay with the pace or the move.
Yeah, you know, we've seen favorites have tough times here. You know, Jenny Simpson was one back to when Jenny Behringer days, came in as the overwhelming favorite after coming off of a 5th place finish at the World Championships in the steeple, and had a tough to go out here. This race is hard, even for the best guys. Cheserek has been broken. He has been broken by Patrick Tiernan and Justin Knight, and Tiernan now leading.
1K to go. I wonder what's going through these guys' mind. They're thinking they'll be battling Cheserek in that last K, and now they're battling each other instead of battling.
These guys are aware. They know it's between them now. Cheserek is not in the picture, and they're quickly adjusting their mindset. It's no longer Edward Cheserek's show. Tiernan knows Knight has speed, and now he's got to focus on how do I get away from him and not let him kick me down in that final 800 meters, 400 meters here.
You got to like Knight's position, letting Tiernan do all the work. He's a big man. It's very windy out there, and he's just sitting right behind him. And I think Knight won't make his move until he sees that finish line.
Stretching again. He is. I know I sound like a broken record. He is subtly moving the tempo up and down. It's really brilliant running. Whether it works in the end or not, it's brilliant strategy.
This is a tactic you said you used when you.
That's
you
not
won.
why I'm saying it's brilliant. It's working for him today.
Yeah, Knight falling back a bit, about a 10-meter gap forming.
This is an important part right here for Tiernan to throw in a surge, though. If he can throw in that surge and put a little doubt into Knight's mind when they round the corner into that straightaway, that could be the difference maker. Knight's got to stay composed, because we mentioned earlier that last 400, it doesn't matter if there's a 10, 20-meter gap. Anything can happen here, especially when you got the speed of a Knight. But the strength of Tiernan and the confidence that he has coming in, saying he's in the best shape of his life, trying to win this title. He's out here by himself. All the Villanova contingent that's not here,
keep an eye on Knight
for him. I know Sheila's over there just holding it internally, trying to see the Wildcat.
Not to show my bias here, but don't count out Knight, though. You know, this is a long stretch to gather a kick, but it does look like Patrick is in pretty good shape right now.
And in the distance there, Futsum Zeta-Selassie has never beaten Cheserek at a championship event outside of maybe a Dream Mile competition in high school. But Tiernan right now coming up on less than 200 meters. Will he be your champ? Does Justin Knight have anything left? It's Patrick Tiernan coming back to win a cross-country title, and it looks like he's going to do that. The Australian from Villanova, coming off of an Olympic 5K competition just months ago. It's Patrick Tiernan from Villanova coming through 29-22. Winning the title that eluded him a year ago. Justin Knight in second, moving up 2 spots from 2015. Those two, so happy.
Wow, what a run for Patrick Tiernan. his final cross-country race, final race as a Wildcat.
In third place now, Edward Cheserek, not going to win that 4th title. He's in third, about 25 seconds outside of the win. And Futsum Zenasalasi finishes 4th.
Here comes Grant Fisher.
Grant Fisher in 5th, Herb in 6th, McDonald in 7th, Kibichi in 8th, and BYU there in 9th. Big points there. Georgetown's got 1. NAU's got 2 in the top 10.
Syracuse gets their 2 win. Arkansas now comes with 2.
I see
NAU's got 3.
Stanford there. Colorado's got 2 in right now. Colorado's got a 3rd coming.
Syracuse looking good. Syracuse got their.
NAU with another. That might be NAU's 4th. Colorado has another. There's Chogi, Stanford,
Here's
Arkansas.
Syracuse looking good. They got their 5th in.
This is going to be really close with Syracuse and NAU. I think both of their 5ths are in. Wisconsin having a good showing out there. I think they might have 4 in already. Colorado, I think all 5 of theirs are in. So it is going to be interesting. I don't know how we're going to score this one out.
Oh, man. 6 teams all in it.
Here you go, Northern Arizona. It's official, 125 points over Stanford by 33. Stanford in 2nd, 158, a great showing for them. Syracuse at 164. Really, really close for those 3 teams all the way through the second half of that race. And the surprise, big surprise, Mississippi on the podium, 196 points. The top school out of the SEC. And Arkansas, the team we thought had a chance at that podium, right behind them and 10 points behind them in 206. Colorado looked pretty strong with their pack, but they fell off after 4. And then BYU, great showing with 1 in the top 10, but after that, again, fell a little short from that podium. Wisconsin 256 and Oregon 282. So, man, NAU did it.